South Africa is moving ahead with a new land expropriation bill that, unlike previous versions, allows land to be confiscated without compensation. For context, expropriation has been underway for some time, but earlier laws required compensating current owners at fair market value. That system had serious problems with regards to who received the land, how the process was run, and what happened afterward. Much of the land taken from productive owners didn't maintain the same output. In some cases, it was later resold at a fraction of its value, including to multinational private firms instead of local communities. Now, that in and of itself had a bunch of problems. As far as who it was being given to, the overall process, and the fact that a lot of the land that was taken away from these productive individuals was no longer producing the same sort of value. A lot of times it was then resold for pennies on the dollar for what it was bought for, and in many cases, to multinational private companies instead of the locals. Now, the current situation basically takes away that whole context of compensating them to begin with, because apparently the problem with the prior land compensation bills was not the corrupt process that led to how it was implemented, nor the decline in productivity of those farmlands that were given away to black farmers, but rather the fact that the white landowners were paid anything for the land. Now, here's the thing. I want to point out the fact that right now, there's a ton of problems in South Africa stemming from crime, to widespread corruption, to crumbling infrastructure and employment discrimination against the white minority. Crime, for instance, is out of control in South Africa. To give you an idea, there are about 75 murders a day. 75 murders every single day. That's not counting the attempted murders and ones that don't get reported. Assaults and violence are also out of control. No one feels safe. You have a situation where basically there's just really no safety there anymore unless you're hiring private security. And then there is the out-of-control corruption of the government. South Africa is really the only country where a party as incompetent and corrupt as the ANC can stick to power for so long. By every metric you can take, the country has gotten worse under their leadership over the past 2 decades, and they did this while facing corruption scandal after corruption scandal. This set the precedent for how politics on the local level is run in the country. When the officials on the top are pocketing so much funds to enrich themselves and their buddies and still staying in power, that sends a message to the rest of the country. On top of that, anti-corruption laws are rarely enforced, so there isn't an incentive for whistleblowers to expose anything. With this said, 2 questions come to mind. First, why should people trust the government to manage land expropriation without corruption when it struggles with basics like infrastructure and public safety? Second, how is this plan supposed to fix anything in South Africa? How does redistributing productive farmland from current white owners to new farmers who may lack the experience or resources to operate it improve outcomes, especially when prior efforts largely failed? To me, it reads as a symbolic gesture meant to consolidate the ruling party's support and rally the country around a headline rather than deliver results. In mainstream South African politics, white people are the perpetual boogeyman, and any party that wants a chance of national governance is going to have to cater to that idea on some level. Many white South Africans have been leaving the country thanks to crime, the farm murders, and discriminatory policies that prohibit them from so many job opportunities. Now, you add this to all of that, it's going to cause another mass exodus of people who could offer so much in the way of skills and capital, something this country desperately needs right now. But to the South African government, driving them out is all worth it, because the ANC are not running a country. They're just overseeing the looting of it as far as I'm concerned. They get away with it because they can get a large segment of the South African voter base to support them based on racial resentment stemming from apartheid. People who don't care that the ANC has been in charge for over 30 years since its end. People who don't care that a lot of things are much worse than they were under apartheid. But ultimately, the reality of the situation is that this new land law is just another stupid idea in a long list of them. One that they can put in front of voters to present as the magic bullet that's going to solve the country's problems, when in reality, it is just one more step towards the collapse of this failing state. In a sane society, no one would ever allow a government this inept and corrupt to confiscate the land of the citizens without compensation. In fact, such a government would have been ousted from power a long time ago. But the dynamic of the racial tensions in South Africa make this kind of party feasible. This is not about land expropriation. It is about sending a message to the white citizens. A message that they're not welcome. A message that no one is interested in solving the country's actual problems as long as the white citizens remain. Most of the people supporting these land reform bills probably would not vote for the ANC if there were no white folks, because they know the ANC has nothing to offer but corruption and theft. In fact, many of them know that right now, but don't seem to care. And this ultimately is the crux of the issue when it comes to this new land reform bill. It's just the continuation of the same old politics that have been ruining South Africa over the past 3 decades. The politics of resentment and racial division, the type of thinking that allows people to overlook serious crime, rampant unemployment, and crumbling civil services to vote for the likes of the ANC and Julius Malema's party, because these parties give a lot of people a scapegoat and offer an easy solution, something that, unfortunately, a lot of South Africans are more than willing to accept. And until that thinking changes, these sort of policies will continue to come down the pipeline, even if they run this country into the ground. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of all of this, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.